So let's look at the Gemara on Nun Testament base. Toshma.
We don't find a beautiful position.
So according to the Chafetz Chaim, when a baby person has a baby girl, they say Shechion. According to, I don't know that it's brought down by the morning. I don't know that the Sfardim will hold that way. But the Ashkenazim, even among the Ashkenazim, I don't believe that it's everybody would agree to that, because the Aruch HaShulchan did not mention that you say Shechion when you have a baby girl. It was the Chafetz Chaim said, he has his logic was that it says that if you're a good friend you haven't seen or spoken to in 30 days, and now you see him after 30 days, and you had no contact with him for 30 days, when you see him, upon seeing him, you say Shechiano. So he says, when your person has a baby girl, it's not less of a simcha, and therefore the Chafetz Chaim says you say Shechiano. But whether everybody agrees to that, I would doubt that the Sfardim agree to that. But something, Okay. Tashma. We were in the middle of the piece of about 5 lines into the wide lines on Nun Testament base. Meit Aviv. He said that if someone's father passed away, who Yoresh Batchila, who Yoresh, and he's the one who's going to inherit his father. So what is the bracha that we say? That means we're talking about of course, if someone's father dies, he inherits his father. So what's the Gemara saying? He inherits him. The point of the Gemara is meaning the father left over property. Sometimes a person could have a father and the father could leave over nothing. There's nothing to leave over. But if who Yorsho, if there's something to inherit. So we said there's 2 brachot that needs to be said. Betchila, first it says the Omer Baruch Dayana Emet. I'll say the bracha of Dayana Emet. Sof, and after that, because they told him that his father left over property. So then he says Baruch Hatov HaMeitiv. He says the bracha Baruch Hatov HaMeitiv. So now the language of this Braita was Meit Aviv. His father died. We're talking about this person. It sounds like he's the only son. Perhaps that's what the Gemara is thinking. He's a one man. He's a son. He had a son. And let's say there's no even, the halacha is even if there's a son and a daughter, the son inherits. The daughter only inherits if there's no sons. If there's a son, the daughter does inherit, and the son will support the daughter will eat off the property, the family, take care of the daughters, take care of the sisters. The son takes care of the finances, and he inherits. So, but it's only him. He's the only one that's inheriting. So why is there a bracha Hatova Meitiv? You told me Hatova Meitiv. It's only when there's somebody also benefiting together with you. So here it's only the son. So the Gemara answers Hatam Nami Diga Achai the Kayarti Bate. He has brothers. It's not only the father left over one son. The father had multiple sons. Therefore, a number of them are at least one other son there is also inheriting. So therefore, the bracha is brachata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hatov v'hameitiv. It's good for me, and it's good also for what? For my brother. Now, what's interesting to note is we said yesterday, we mentioned there's a machloket in the early rabbis when there's rain, and I own property, and the rain affects my property. So the fact that it's good for me, because now it rained, my property grows. But my property growing it's not good for somebody else, it's good for me only. But this also rain that happened to my property also happened to my neighbor's property. So we both are gaining from this rain. So is that called Hatova HaMeitiv? I could say Hatova HaMeitiv because I'm gaining and my friend is gaining from this good thing that happened, the rain. Or it has to be in the item that I'm benefiting from, someone else is also benefiting from. And even the fact that my neighbor also got rain, but my property belongs to me, and on my property only I'm benefiting. So would I be able to say Atova Meitiv in such a circumstance when I'm personally benefiting? even though someone else also benefits from this goodness, but he's not benefiting from the same thing that I'm benefiting from. So some want to point out from this Gemara, when the two brothers inherit, I'm the inherit, my property is my inheritance. My brother's property is his inheritance. And yet, I could still say the bracha of Atova HaMeitiv, even though my property is only good for me. His property is only good, it's good for him. And yet the fact is that one action happened. There was an inheritance, and that inheritance affected both of us. It's good enough to say the bracha of Atova HaMeitiv. But I want to say that this would be a question on the opinion that says that when you have property, it's not good enough that it rained and the rain affected me and my neighbor. It has to be that I have a partner in my own property. What for me to say Atov HaMeitiv? So how will you explain by the brothers? So you could say like this: there is an opinion when brothers inherit. There's a question: how do you look at the inheritance? The father left over a piece of property. Is it that the brothers, they both owned, when the father passed away, really the whole property belongs to both brothers? We're partners in this property, except we divide it. So when you have a dividing, so therefore I'm giving you, you get this half and I get this half. Right, the first person gets a double portion. Right, that's legit. Now the question is, a person, there's an ability to write a kosher will. I mean, a person is such a thing that a person writes a will, and does writes it in a proper way. But if you write a will and you say, person says, I want all my children to inherit equally. So that language is not such a good language. Why? Because the Torah says all children don't inherit equally. There's a Bechar that gets a double portion. The sons get the inheritance, and not the daughters. The only time daughters inherit is when there's no sons. But if you write it, there's something called a kosher will. They write it, instead of saying he bequeaths, that everyone should inherit equally. There's something, if you use a language like he's gifting it, he's giving it as a gift, and maybe it should perhaps he might say it should take effect a moment before he passes away, because the person could gift whatever he wants before he leaves this world. If he wants to, whether it's recommended, whether he should do equal gifts or not, but technically he could give all the children whatever he wants to give while he's alive. It's only once he passes away, then the Torah gives us how the inheritance should be. So there's something called a kosher will, how to write it in the best, that should not be going against, good morning, Ms. David, the way the Torah says. So perhaps that's how you could explain by the inheritance. Even though this property that this brother gets is his property, and that brother got that property, but really, some understand that they both were really they both are real partners in the whole property. Except we gotta figure out how do two people that own one property deal with it? They divide it up. If they want to divide up, they divide up. The brothers don't want to remain partners in the property, in the estate of their father, so they divide it up. But really, this property it belongs to. We're real partners in this property. So therefore, you could say that's why maybe it's appropriate that they could say the bracha tova meitiv in this property, even though I'm only going to get half the property, and in my property, and you're getting the other half. So how could I say tova meitiv? I have no partner in my half of property that I'm getting. But the answer is really my brother was a partner in property we were all equal partners in the whole property. And they say bracha tova meitiv because even though they divided it, but before they divided it, before they divided the property, Mr. Haber, before they divided it, they're partners. Because of the fact that before they divided it, how do you look at brothers before you divide it? Do they equally own? Is it that two brothers in a property, I own half, he owns half, we just don't know which half we own? The father left over a piece of real estate. Half is mine, half is yours, but we have to figure out how to figure out which half is mine and which half. We have to figure out how do I own 50%, you own 50%, or is it that we own 100% together? We're 100% partners in every piece, and now we're going to divide it up. This is a major question, how do you look at, no, the difference is it, the difference would be, am I really selling you a piece of property? Meaning, well, when brothers divide, is it, see, the difference with this would be a practical difference how we look at it. But let's say if I own half and you own half, right? So the part that's mine has nothing to do with you. Part that's yours has nothing to do with me. So that then when it comes, let's say, Yovel, when properties go back, that might be a difference of depending how you look at it. If it's considered this is mine, this is yours, and this was never yours, it's not that you're selling me half of your properties. If we're partners, so and we each own a half of, each own the whole thing, so it could be there might be ramifications when it comes to Yovel. Is it like I'm selling you half of my property, or I'm selling you something here because I really have equal ownership in this property as you have both equal, we're both owners. And if I sell a field, right, if I sell a field, the rule is it comes Yovel, it goes back to the owner. So therefore, the Yovel is the 50th year, the Jubilee year. There's 7 Shmitos, every 7 years of Shemitah. And then on the 50th, after we account 7 Shmitot, on the year 50 is Yovel. And anyone has a Jewish slave, even like the Torah says, if someone buys a slave, 6 years he shall work, and the 7th year he goes free. But if he wants to remain a slave past 7 years, and there's a process, he pierces his ear, but then he cannot remain a slave forever. Comes Yovel, he goes free. What? There's, right. We're talking about land, but we're talking about land, right? We're talking about land, certain types of land. That could be Tova Meitiv. I did not say the bracha Tova Meitiv. When my father passed away, I don't recall anybody telling me I should say the bracha Tova Meitiv. Even though, I mean, it could be, first of all, it could be that my mother, anyways, was the one who got whatever. It wasn't that I inherited anything. Even though according to the Torah, the sons inherit, like we said, but if a person creates a will in a certain way, in a halachic way, so then they can have their wife inherit them. But it doesn't mean that they really should consult a posek exactly what's the right way to do it. But the Torah, on the one hand, says the son should get it. But you have a right to gift when you're alive. You have a right to gift to whoever you want to, when you're alive. But it doesn't mean it's recommended to do it just without considering the spirit of the law, the spirit of the Torah. That's something people need to consult. The same thing. Person should consult the posek. Should they give all their children the same, or should the Bechor get something extra because he's the Bechor? The Torah did say that the firstborn son gets a double portion. So, that's something a person should consult with a posek to see how the posek would say what's the best way to write a will. And the key thing that I believe is that we find that Yaakov prayed that people should get sick before they pass away. That was Yaakov's one of the things that Yaakov asked. And that's why it says, Hinei avicha choleh. They told Yosef, behold, your father's sick. No one used to get sick. They used to sneeze and they would pass away. That's why you say gesundheit to someone when they sneeze. God bless you. So used to be that was the end. People would pass away. Really, I saw one of the commentaries say that really, the guy who sneezes is supposed to thank God. Everybody's thanking, everyone's giving you a blessing for sneezing. But you're alive. You're supposed to, how do you like that, everybody? You're supposed to be the one to say that blessed. Really, we should say thank you, God. But I say the issue is that people need to be clear on properties and different things, because problem is the Yetzer Hara comes in after a person leaves this world, and he tries to make machloket with the family. This property is mine, this thing is yours. Therefore, the people need to be very clear. First of all, people have to bring up children that they'll never fight. That's one thing. But there's the Yetzer Hara out there. People have to make sure that things are very clear. That people should not leave room for machloket after too many families have been broken up because things weren't clear. Am I correct, Ms. Haber, about that? Unfortunately, terrible. Over what? Over money. And then it's the most greatest disgrace to their parents that the children are fighting. Yes, what do you want to say, Nathan? I'm just saying, but that Yaakov prayed and so he put everything in order. So before he died, he was able to give instructions to his children, to his grandchildren, exactly, and how he wants them to lead a proper Torah life. And I presume also to put everything in order that there should not be any issues as well. I would just say it's also a benefit that things should be clear. And that's why people have to be, okay. Now, so the Gemara, now, Tashma, now we're 5 lines from the bottom. Shinu Yayin. 5 lines from the bottom, and Nun Testament base. Shinu Yayin, if you have a change of wine, you drank one wine, and then they bring you out another wine. Do you have to make a new Borei Pei Geffen on the second wine? So no, you do not have to, even though wine is very chashuv, even though, because you could ask the question, what's the question? You have an apple, then you bring out an orange. Do you need to tell me that after you have an apple, then they bring out an orange, you don't say a new Borei Pei? Of course you don't say new Borei Pei. So what's the Gemara telling us? So Shinu Yayin, that even though you brought out a different wine, and wine is very chashuv, like we find that the rabbis, the chachamim, gave a special bracha on wine compared to any other beverage. All manishtana wine from all other liquids. All other liquids we say a shahakol, and wine we say a Borei Pei Geffen, because wine is very chashuv. Wine is very significant, a very important drink, brings great happiness. So you got to go. If you bring out another bottle of wine, you might have thought you should make a new Borei Pei Geffen, even though you were drinking. So therefore, it says in the Braita, no, that even though you brought out a different bottle of wine, you did not know because you were drinking. You had a mind to drink more wine. So therefore, you do not recite a new Borei Pei Geffen. However, the Gemara tells us that Shinui Makom. The opinion here in the Gemara is that if you change your place and you went to another place, you said the bracha on the wine in place number 1, and then after let's say you said the bracha on the wine here in the Safra synagogue, and then you went to the office across the street. You went across the street. What? You said a bracha. I said a Borei Pei Geffen on the wine right over here, and then I went across the street to the office, and I changed locations. And then let's say I came back to this place. Do I have to go ahead? I came back to the Safra. Do I have to go ahead and say a new bracha when I come back to the Safra? So we know in halacha there is a whole discussion. Where does wine on the list? Because hamotzi also is a discussion. If a guy has bread, he eats bread over here, and then he leaves, and then he comes back. You have to say do you have to pay a new hamotzi because you left your place or not? So we make, in practice, we make a difference between hamotzi, mezonot is one level, and things of shehakol, and those things are another level. That means we say hamotzi, since I'm bound to the place. Like if I ate here and I go outside, I have to come back here, right? If I step out to go to the corner to pick up. I'm bound to come back to my place, but you have to say Birkat HaMazon in the place that you ate, correct? So there's like a string attached. There's a string pulling you back. So even though you left the place, it's not called you don't have to make a new bracha hamotzi when you come back. But if I go ahead and I said I had an apple over here, I had an apple in the Safra, I'm sitting down for breakfast, I have an apple, and then I go out for some reason, I leave, I go a block, and then I come back, I have to make a new Borei Pei. Since I changed destination, and I'm not bound to come back to continue my apple here, because I could say a Borei Nefashot wherever I am. There's no string pulling me back to this place. When I have bread, there's a string pulling me back here. But when I have an apple, orange, the drink here, there's no string pulling me back. And change of place would require me, when I come back, I have to make a new bracha on the apple.
trying to pull out of water fast. Like, how does that work?
Right, so that's very good. Technically, if you have in mind, it's a good question because that's the question of Avad Yosef discusses. If you go on Shavuot night, the night of Shavuot, you stay up the whole night and you're drinking the whole night. So how many brachos? If you plan, if you keep on planning on drinking, so the drinking is not over. So technically, the shahakol should cover you as long as you don't lose focus on the bracha. As long as you didn't leave the place, you didn't go outside across the street, you were in the same place, it should cover you. The only question is,
The problem
unless you feel, unless your mind says, I'm finished drinking. Let's say if a guy says, I'm not drinking for another hour, but I'm finished. It could be there. That might not be a problem. And I would say the boring for sure. Meaning to say, concluded, it's over. Meaning I have a drink now, I'm finished drinking, even though I know in an hour I'm going to drink. I'm not thinking about drinking. I'm not thinking about the drinking in an hour from now. I mean, that's what something to ask for posek, but I'm saying if I'm finished drinking, I know the guy's home. I'm having breakfast. Let's say people are because of Corona, they're home. Some people are home the whole day working out of the house. Are you going to say because I'm in my house, I'm going to eat breakfast, and I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to say I'm going to wash now. I plan on eating. I know I'm eating in 2 hours from now, so I know I'm going to drink. I'm going to say I'm not going to make another bracha the whole day because I'm staying in the same place the whole day. I'm finished. If I'm finished eating, I finished drinking, I'm over. I'm not thinking about it now. The fact that I'm going to drink in another hour or two, I think my drinking is over. I'm not thinking about it. It's not on my mind. You know what I'm saying? That's what?
Pour a cup of coffee over here, you go to banana, maybe you want another coffee, one machine upstairs.
Because in the same building, you should really have in mind that you plan on going to the other room. Then you're covered. But it's in the same building, you don't think.
A half hour later or 2 hours.
You said the bracha, and you're still okay. Maybe.
I know you have all the other complexities. Could it be? Should it be? But in the case of water, it's different. In the case of a drink, it's different. The more compelling question is if I have a bit of fat,
Right.
and I now say, almost, or I have to have it, even if I choose something. Now I go outside and I have the same item. And I'm moving in that direction. I get into the car. I'll say another bit of that.
Right. Yes, you have to say another bracha. If you created your place here, that means we spoke about this. I think in Psachim, Mr. David.
Did we really?
Yes. If I sat here in Safra, I had a coffee in Safra. I'm sitting with Nathan. I had a coffee, meaning, and then and I'm going out to the car. After I'm going out to the office, and I want to take the coffee with me. The fact that I established my place here, I'm sitting here in Safra having a coffee. Now I leave this place. I go outside. Now I would have to say a new bracha on the coffee. If I never established myself, I'm leaving. I'm taking the coffee to go. The guy from downstairs, he picks up a coffee and he's going to the office. So and he comes upstairs. He's in the elevator, taking the elevator up. He says a bracha on it. It's not really. He didn't establish a place. So I would say there, if he leaves, he does not need to say a new bracha, even though he said the bracha in the elevator here in Safra. But he didn't establish a place. He's on the road. It's like if you're traveling, you're walking on Madison and then you go another block. You're not going to say a new bracha every block. If you're traveling with a water bottle, you're driving, you're in a car, or you're driving a bike. You never established a place.
That place and you move to another location.
That's only if you establish a place. But if you're walking in the street, if you take a water bottle in the street, right? You're traveling. You don't have a place.
Like it's one bottle, like when you think about But why should it matter where you end up with the bottle when you took the you know?
But-
Now I gotta go back and refill it maybe again. It's one bottle, it's full, it's sealed. Stop it.
He's contemplating to have let's say have a chocolate. I eat half of the chocolate bar, and I take the chocolate bar with me. I've already established this chocolate bar. I've said it with the hell on, and I take it with me with the intention.
With the intention to go to
of
another
having to go
place.
to Another place, and continuing to finishing the chocolate. I still have to.
Right. Why? Because you ate, because you establish yourself in place number one, and now you change your location. You hear what I'm saying? But again, but if you didn't establish yourself, if you're walking in the street and you say a shakol on the chocolate bar at this corner, outside the right, you come outside the building. Establish means this. Here is my this is my place where I'm eating. I have a place. I have a makom. I'm sitting down here. I'm eating. I'm sitting with Nathan. I'm having a coffee with Nathan. I'm not on the go. That means this is where am I having the coffee? This is my place. This is where I'm eating. I'm eating here. I'm drinking right here. I'm sitting here. Now I left the place. There's something called, when you leave a place, that's called shinui makom. If I left my place, that's called an interruption. That wouldn't make a difference. If I establish my place here, even if I have in mind, the difference would be bread, mezonot. We find in halacha, we have to see what the Sfardim hold, differences. Because even though I eating over here, if I'm having bread here and I have in mind to have bread in another place, I could do that would work, and I would not need to say new bracha. I mean, if I'm eating my meal here, and I have in mind I'm going to finish my meal by my mother-in-law's house across the street, 2 blocks away. Bread is different. Bread, and again, whether it's ideal to do that, not ideal to do that, but at the end of the day, if a person did that, he will not say a new hamotzi. If I'm eating here, I'm having hamotzi here, and I have in mind I'm going to go eat. I'm going to finish my meal. I'm going to have some bread across the street also. I had a kazayit here. I ate a kazayit here. It's better to have I had a kazayit here, and I'm going to have some bread over there. That I would not say new hamotzi. But if I'm eating here, if I'm having apples here, oranges here, I'm having a drink here, I'm drinking here, and then I leave the place, that would be a interruption. Is that clear or not clear? But when you're traveling, then you don't never establish a place for yourself. If when you said the bracha, you didn't start out in a place, meaning you didn't have this is not my place. When a person's traveling, where are you? You're nowhere. You're just traveling. You're not leaving. You're not interrupting your place. You're not changing your place. You never had a place. You never established a place. Nathan, is that clear or not clear? Mr. Haber, I don't know if you buy it or not. I don't know if you bought it back then, Mr. Haber.
They've established, rabbis have said, I'm not going to be able to give you a whole presentation on why, but if you eat something here.
Place number one, you establish yourself in this place. You weren't traveling.
Let's say a better hypothetical. I have a cracker.
So crackers and mezonot, that's a different level bracha than a shahakol.
Which is missing. Maybe it's easier to explain. If you don't have a cracker, you have another item. But if I take a cracker and I say mezonot on it, and I say, I've got to go. I'll finish the cracker in the car. I can't go out and continue with the same bit of fat that I had before and not say another bit of fat. If I leave the location and I continue with the same cracker that it said mezonot on it, and I had intention to leave and to go to the car and continue the cracker in the car.
What would you say by hamotzi, Mr. Haber? So I'm saying,
see the context of bread that
you're tied.
relocated.
Right. So I'm saying, So I'm saying the mizonot also a lot would put the mizonot in the category of hamotzi. Say that's why I would say give an example of an apple, an orange, or a chocolate bar.
Maybe such a service that.
Without the crack. We'll get rid of the crack.
The chocolate bar is.
Chocolate bar is a good illustration, but you.
Question, the other compelling question is, what if you take a piece of gum or a second candy, and you say a bit of hell in it, and you keep the
Thing in your mouth.
and you go outside, you have to say another bit of hell in it. It's a continuation. It's the same piece of candy. That's more.
Right, they're right. I think the Kaf HaChaim discusses, but again, I don't think by candy that you really were eating it in a place. I think that unless you say candy might be something that you didn't establish. I'm not eating the candy here. Candy is not something candy might be something you can look at like I'm traveling, something I don't have a place and I'm eating. So therefore the bracha should be continuous. It's not that I'm changing locations. I never had it. When candy, I don't know if you consider I'm eating, sucking candy that I'm eating it here. This is
I
my.
had a very curious question about this couple of quotes that they did here. And now I'm going to the guy on the store when the car is ready. You go outside, carry the same coffee that you said a bit of hour.
But you weren't really drinking it here. It's not that you were already preparing your trip. It's already. What's like you were sitting down here. Right. Then you already established yourself. Here you're sitting here. Right. Because you left it right. You established. You said a bracha on the car. Oh, you said a bracha here, right? If make a new bracha. It could be when you get the apartment because when you're in the car. Now the question is from the car to the house would be a good question. That needs to be looked into. But from here to the car, you establish yourself here. The question in the car, you didn't really have a place because the car is you're traveling. So that's the question. You're going from a non-place to a place. So maybe that's not called a change of place because you never had a place. So that's a good question. But from here to the car, you change your place. You're sitting here. What'd you say? But if you make the bracha, you're standing in the hall. You make the bracha here, all right? That's a continuation, but you didn't change your place. But you never established. You're traveling. You're on the move. But if you're sitting here and you're eating, drinking here, like Nathan's doing now, he's where are you now, Nathan? He's in a place. But maybe tomorrow I'll take out the Chavadat about Yosef about Shavuot night, the night of Shavuot. You're up the whole night of Shavuot, and you're making a bracha, and you have a mind to drink the whole night. You're not leaving the place. So one bracha would cover you for the whole night, and one bracha on the drink will cover you the whole night. One
sip and another one, maybe water would be better because water is logical. You could have water if you have a cup of coffee, maybe coffee gets cold, and so on and so forth. But if you have a shackle, you wait 2 hours, 3 hours, and then you use the Pepsi Cola there that start with water.
That's only provided that if your mind was set, I'm planning on keep on drinking. Meaning if you're not planning on drinking and drinking is over, then you wouldn't need to say a new bracha. It's only because I had a bracha now, a shackle now, and I'm planning on drinking in a half hour, 45 minutes. I'm planning on doing that. If my drinking was over, I'm finished drinking, then I wouldn't need to say the bracha. It's only because I am continuing I'm having in mind with this bracha to cover me on all the drinks that I plan on drinking. And even though I'm drinking now, I'm not going to drink for another half hour, but I plan on drinking. Not if you leave the building. Once you leave the building, come back, you got to say a new bracha. Once you leave your office. If you go in and you say your coffee, have your coffee, and then you leave the building. You go across the street, then you come back, you have to say new bracha. That shakol will not cover you once you leave the building. Because you've established yourself, this is where I'm drinking. I'm drinking here in this building. But if I didn't establish myself in this building because I'm standing at the door and I'm saying a shakol, I'm not here. I didn't establish myself here because I'm traveling. Then I don't need to say new bracha when I walk outside. If I say a bracha right now, I'm standing right now. I prepare a coffee. I say a shakol, and I plan on leaving. And I'm not drinking here. It's not my place. I'm standing. I'm on the move. If I'm sitting down, making myself comfortable, this is my place for a meeting. Now I want to go ahead and leave, and that would be an interruption of my place. Is that clear or not, Nathan?
Definitely clear.
So what bottom line? In your office, you say a shakol, as long as you said a bracha shakol, and you have in mind to continuously drink, and you still mind thinking, that's one building. But if you leave your building, the moment you leave your building, that's called a change of place. And a change of place, let's make it the same, but change of place is called an interruption.
Somebody's a real estate agent, right? They're popping into the building all day. They're trying to broker real estate.
So therefore, they never establish their own place. They're always but if he's showing the property and he sits down with the man and he sits down and he's drinking with the man that he created, this is his place where he is at. But if he's on the move, he didn't establish a place that he's interrupting from the place that he's in. He never has a place. It's always on the move. Right. No, but if you drink here, if you sit down here, you've established a place. If you're traveling in a car, you didn't establish any place for yourself. You're just traveling. Like if I walk from here for another 3 miles, I say shakol here. Wherever I'm saying, I go outside, I say shakol, and then I'm walking 3 miles. I don't say a new shakol because I'm traveling. The whole thing was never interrupting from my place. I don't have a place. My place is traveling. My place is on the road. That's I never interrupted my place.
Well,
Yes, we had a lot of interesting discussions in Psachim about this stuff. The Gemara Psachim